What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday, or happy whenever the hell you're listening to this. Welcome to the RotoGrinders DFS Pick 6. I'm Eric Crain. I'm joined as I am every week by John Daigle and Rich Hribar. And Rich, how we doing today? How's this Wednesday treating you?
Real good. Here we are. We're officially into November. I heard you're not supposed to shave this month, so I'm going to keep up with that and continue not to shave through No Shave November. But this is going to be a fun week, I think. Week 10, we've got the most teams we've had on by all season. 6 of them. And then we've also got 6 teams playing on these primetime games that we've kind of latched onto in some capacity. So the main slate is going to be really interesting this week. A lot of guys are moved off the board. It's kind of our most condensed slate of the season for a main slate. So, it's going to be a fun week.
Yeah, this is one of those slates that at first glance you don't necessarily like it. And I think as the week goes on, the more work your guys are willing to put in, I think you're going to start liking it more and more, because this is a slate that a lot of people are going to look at and say, I don't like it that much. And when that happens, people don't put in work, and suddenly you're going to have an edge if you actually know what's going on. Daigle, what's going on with you, man? How's your Wednesday?
Oh, everything's going good. I totally agree with both of you. This past week, it was more or less don't get cute. Just go Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett, and that's apparently the key to opening up everything. But this week, we have 2 totals over 50. We have some great tournaments on DraftKings in particular. We have the $100 entry Millionaire Maker that should weed out quite a few entries. So, no, I'm really excited about this slate.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And, of course, we're going to be talking about those totals that are over 50, a few low totals. It's going to be a good time for this show. But before we jump into it, Reeves, kind of give me your overall view of the slate.
Well, like I said, I think it's fun that, we have, Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, the 49ers backfield, George Kittle, Zeke, Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott, Stephon Diggs, Dalvin Cook, who we've been riding kind of all year. Didn't really hit for us last week. But and then even that Oakland, Chargers game on Thursday, having all those games off of the main slate, because those would have been some appealing games, I think, make this interesting. Everyone's just going to play Christian McCaffrey. We should just eliminate him from the board this week. Everyone just we just have fun. No one gets Christian McCaffrey.
I'm okay with I tried that strategy last week. It didn't work out.
It's a 0 for everyone.
Yeah, it was, I wouldn't mind that. I'd be
It's a wash.
I can't keep screwing it up then if we just eliminate. All right, before we get into the slate, I want to let you guys know that we are rolling out 2 free rolls in honor of Yahoo using CSVs now, not CVSs. That would be the pharmacy. So Friday, this is really neat. There's going to be an NBA free roll, and Sunday they're going to have an NFL free roll. On top of that, Lineup HQ premium features are going to be free starting Friday and ending Sunday at midnight. And let me tell you guys something. If you haven't checked out the new Lineup HQ, you really need to, because it's going to be free from Friday to Sunday. You've got no excuses. None of this crap. Well, I didn't have time, blah, 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 blah. You get 3 days. It's a weekend. You probably don't got to work. Get out there and check it out, because the new Lineup HQ is straight money. So, check that out. Plus, of course, the free rolls on Yahoo for NBA on Friday, for NFL on Sunday. Check that out. And again, even if you don't do anything else, check out Lineup HQ, because that is awesome. And also, college basketball is starting. How cool is that? The season $2.99 for the season. It includes March Madness. It's only $6.99 a day, $69.99 a month. It's provided by Varncast, one of the best DFS college basketball players in the industry. And again, I've talked all the time about these little niche sports, these smaller sports that the masses, they don't do as much research for these sports, because there's not as much research to do. There's not as much content out there. So the ability to have somebody doing a lot of that research for you, it's worth every dollar. And you can really gain a big edge, a massive edge on these niche sports. So make sure you check that out. $299 for the season. That includes March Madness. The contests are going to be big. You're going to be making some money. And also, I got to thank these guys. The RotoGrinders badge promo. Y'all get a shout out for rocking the RotoGrinders badge. We got Snipe69, T. Marroll. I probably didn't say that right, but my apologies. Eagle I87. You got to get a better name than that, man. It's Eagle, then the letter I, then the word I87. You got to do better than that. We're going to get you a new name with the RotoGrinders badge. And then Nuke4179 too. So thanks you guys for rocking the badge. And thank you guys for joining us. We're about to jump into this slate. And we're going to start off with a game that I think a lot of the people are going to flock to this game immediately. It's the Arizona Cardinals at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a 51-point total. Tampa 4.5-point favorites at home. And we know that these teams, they like to throw. They like to air it out. We like Kyler. We like Jameis. We like either Mike Evans and or Chris Godwin. We know one of them is going to get there. So, Reeves, let's start with this Tampa Bay side. Where are we going here?
I would like to have this, be a show where you just read Twitter handles. I think at this point, or get gamer tags. Where we read that was impressive.
It wasn't impressive. I read the bleeping sheet. We're good. The one dude that had like 17 I's in his name. They're just trying to mess with me at this point. I'm convinced that our producer Devin just sends me those names to mess with me.
You also said during the pre-show you were going to cuss, and you've already said bleeping. So I'm proud of you. Actually, you just made up.
Yeah.
You just made up for everything.
Yeah, I know, right? Sometimes you get in those moods where you just say they're gonna have to bleep me out sometimes on these shows, and well, here we are tonight. All right, let's talk Tampa.
Your dad mode is engaged, but yeah, this is the game to kind of, I think, flock to on this main slate is like the one, the pinnacle high scoring game. You look at Tampa Bay games now, they are averaging a combined 60.3 points per game. Games that involve the Bucs, it's the highest in the league. They don't play any pass defense. They play this complete, a pass funnel defense. They blitz at the highest rate in the NFL. They don't really get home. Their pressure rate is kind of sagged off here as the season's moved on after they were getting a lot of sacks early in the season. Their pressure rates kind of dropped a little bit. So they're just inviting teams to beat them in an efficient manner. And we saw that last week when even the Seahawks were able to stick with the pass. That was the blessing in disguise for that game. We talked about it. The Bucs got up 21-7, and that was all we needed for that game to kind of get rolling. If it would have went the other way, if it would have been Seahawks 21-7, we might have had a different outcome last week, and a lot of those, stacks might not have cashed.
We talked about it last week, man, where it's like if Tampa got out to a lead, Russ was going to ball out. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel bad for everyone that got, backdoored in that game with, by Jason Myers, because the field goal would have won it for Seattle and got the cover, but then the touchdown in overtime ruined it.
It would have won me a King of the Beach seat too. So big thanks. Had he made the field goal, I would have won the King of the Beach seat. So.
But for the Tampa Bay side, it's real clear. I mean, we have three guys we focus on every week. Obviously Jameis Winston, and obviously we talked about last week. Jameis Winston's one of those guys that always gives you like a bad feeling, kind of in the corner of your mind of, is he going to ruin this slate for me if I play him? But he's thrown for 300 yards and multiple passing touchdowns in 5 of his past 6 games. He's had at least 17.5 fantasy points in those games. And they only really throw the ball to 2 players, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And we've seen Mike Evans kind of really get rolling here. Back-to-back games with over 180 yards. He's gone over 180 yards now 3 times on the year. He's had a bye week mixed in and still ranks first among wide receivers in fantasy points, air yards, receiving yards, and is third in targets and receptions over the past 4 weeks with a bye week mixed in. That's how much value he's getting. He's kind of taken a little bit away from Chris Godwin, but, Godwin has a good matchup. They only throw the ball to 2 guys. Patrick Peterson has come back and not really played well.
Yeah, he ain't so good, man.
Yeah, he, since returning, he's allowed 14 of 17 targets in his coverage to be completed for 204 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a 131.4 quarterback rating. Mike Evans has faced Patrick Peterson and scored on him in both games. He had a 6 for 70 game and a 3 for 95 game with a touchdown in each game. But it's just those 2 guys. And then if you want to get cute and we finally had like an official changing of the guard in the backfield last week with Ronald Jones. And Bruce Arians backed that down and said that he was going to be the starter. He started last week. He had a season-high 42 snaps. He only had 82 yards last week. And but he had the 20 touches. So, I mean, he'd be like the one guy I think that, like, from a salary standpoint, is like the one guy in a stack like you really don't have to pay up for on this Tampa Bay side.
You're missing somebody.
I know. I'm not even going to talk about
somebody.
I'm not even going to talk about him.
All right. Well, I'm going to throw it to Daigle then, because everybody knows to play Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Ronald Jones got the start. He got the touches. I'm in on Ronald Jones. But Daigle.
Don't make me do it.
First question I'm going to ask you in this whole show, the first thing I'm going to ask you, is it here? O.J. Howard season. Let's do it. Come on.
O.J. Howard, before he got injured, was on pace for 31 catches and 410 yards with no touchdowns.
His best game is like
on pace, by the way. On pace, 31 catches and 410 yards.
He's having that game.
Yeah, but then here we are. The Cardinals allowed league highs to 2 tight ends and catches, receiving yards, and touchdowns. It is, yes, the penultimate spot, But Cameron, so I know we want to play O.J. Howard. Don't get me wrong. Even I want to play O.J. Howard because he's so cheap and he's done absolutely nothing, which is exactly how you play DFS. You just chase those guys. Having said that, Cameron Brate also practiced in full on Wednesday. They're both going to be involved, and we know what's going to happen. Cameron Brate's going to play the fewer snaps of the both, and he's going to have 2 touchdowns on 3 targets. That's exactly what happens every time.
I have done 2 shows today, and you're the second person I've done a show with for that exact sentence.
That's how it works. I'm more interested in the whole Chris Godwin and Mike Evans fiasco because Evans, 15 targets the last 3 weeks. He's averaged 13 more FanDuel points than Kenny Golladay. He's averaged 10 more DK points than Kenny Golladay, who's the next closest receiver in that 3-week span. It's absurd what he's doing. So it's something that points out to regression in favor of Chris Godwin, who's gotten 10 targets in that span as well, just obviously hasn't hit or exploded like Mike Evans has. So I think Chris Godwin, I know Chris Godwin will be the lower owned of the 2. I still think he's a great play, especially because only $400 separates their salaries at both DraftKings and FanDuel. $200 at DraftKings, $400 at FanDuel. So, yeah, I think you can go to Chris Godwin confidently. But if you think this is the game, and it very well could be, that you need to stack ancillary pieces because it's going to be the highest no matter what, so you're trying to get away from the ownership, then, yes, go with Crain and you chase O.J. Howard.
Yeah, and this, I swear, has nothing to do with me trying to salvage my best ball season.
Oh, buddy, I got so many 4th-round O.J. Howards you don't even know.
If you want at least one positive note on O.J. Howard, before his hamstring injury, the last 2 games before his injury, he ran a pass route on 55% of his snaps and 67%, which is 2 highest of the season.
Oh,
so maybe there was a little bit of a trend starting to happen.
Lock button.
Good. There's one positive note I'll give you for Otarius Jabari.
Is that actually his name, or did you just make that up?
No, that's his real name.
Okay.
God-given.
That's amazing either way. But, yeah, as far as Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, look, every single week one of these guys goes up. The lowest DraftKings point total that either one of them has put up week in and week out is 28. Like, one of these guys goes off every single week. And, Daigle, when I look at these guys, and I started doing this a couple weeks ago, and it's been nice. I'm playing at least one of them on every single team I build. I'm just not even messing around. Like, one of these guys are going to crush. It happens every week.
Yeah, it's fair, and it's something you brought into mind and spoke about last week, why you wanted to play Stafford, Golladay, and Marvin Jones or some combination. And I listened to you, and you were correct. The fact is it's a concentrated target tree, and even if O.J. Howard were involved at a lesser extent than Godwin and Evans, the fact is we know where the ball is going to go, which helps us out immensely in DFS.
Yeah, it makes things a lot easier. Now, on the Arizona side, this running back situation's a mess. Like, we're not going to get clarity, I don't think, till Sunday morning. David Johnson, today he came out and said he's 100%. If he is, I know it's a tough matchup. But Reeves, I kind of have interest in David Johnson because he's only priced at 5.7K here. And if he's actually in there, and if he's actually the starter and going to see over 2/3 of the snaps for a guy that catches the ball a ton, why wouldn't I like a little bit of David Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get in the game stack sense, and probably the way Drake played in that first game allows them to use David Johnson kind of split out a little bit more, and that's how he was being used anyways before he had this injury. That's where he was making all of his fantasy money anyways, was that he was running all those wheel routes on linebackers and getting put into mismatches. That's what you still want. I've seen some people suggest that they should just outright move David Johnson, the wide receiver, but they can't do that. They need to dictate mismatches with him. He's also not a guy that can just completely just beat NFL defensive backs regularly. He needs to beat linebackers. So this at least will give them a chance, I think, to roll him out. It kind of makes it a little more sketchy because we typically just want to target the Bucs with tight ends and wide receivers, and the Cardinals make that very hard. They don't really have a tight end, and their wide receiver situation is just a mess.
There's only one I'm interested in.
It's just, it's a gaggle of guys. They don't really, and in the horizontal raid has kind of been back. It's kind of inched its way back into the fold here, but it's typically only against teams that get pressure on them. So, maybe with the Bucs not getting as much pressure recently and falling back to the middle of the pack of the league in pressure rate, that we start to see, them kind of take some downfield shots. I mean, it's really, if you want to just focus on 2 guys, it's Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald. I know we've still been waiting on this Christian Kirk regression. We've chased it, kind of in and out. Last week he wasn't involved at all, and Kyler had a good game, which is kind of troubling. But as far as you're circling back to the backfields, the Tampa Bay has given up some yards here, man, recently. I mean, they've given up 108 yards from scrimmage to opposing backfields the past 4 weeks, at least a little bit of production. So, I mean, it's not something that we have to completely run and hide from now at this point where they were just smothering teams, start the year. They're starting to give up some yardage and some chunk plays. And the Arizona Cardinals, I believe, are third in DVOA rushing, and their running back situation is they're third in yards created before contact because Cliff's actually schemed up that run game pretty well. So, I mean, there's an opportunity there for some of these guys to schematically get yards. And, with the Bucs, kind of looking – their season-long stats look a little better than their recent stats. But I still think when I look at this side of it, I just really want to focus on Kyler and, kind of like we say with like Rumford Johnny says, buy the syrup and not the pancakes. Because, he's priced so cheaply, especially on FanDuel. I mean, you look at these quarterback points, the Bucs are just hemorrhaging too. Russell Wilson, 39.2, Tannehill, 19, Kyle Allen, 17, Teddy Bridgewater, 27, Goff, 21, Daniel Jones, 34, all over the past 6 weeks. I mean, that's a nice, healthy floor for a guy that just put up 23 points on the 49ers.
Yeah, it feels like Kyler's floor is like 20 points here. It really does. And I mean, I know you mentioned Larry Fitzgerald. I can't go there. Like I'm done with Fitz, man. It's like late in the season, like he's had to start getting his cane out onto the field. It's just, I can't do it anymore. So I'm looking at pairing him with a guy like Christian Kirk, or I think you can even run him out there naked. I don't think you have to have a wide receiver with him. Daigle, what do you think about this Cardinals offense?
Yeah, so we only have 2 weeks of overlap, really, between Christian Kirk and David Johnson. Oh, I guess 4 weeks, but 2 weeks of the non-horizontal raid. That's when we got a little bit excited, and they started going off the show because they were no longer the Reeves-dubbed horizontal raid. But in those last 2 weeks, weeks 3 and 4, with David Johnson healthy and Christian Kirk before he got injured as well, David Johnson was seeing 10 targets. And I don't care if my running back gets fewer than 10 carries. And the fact is he won't get fewer than 10 carries, but he'll still likely see that amount. I know Kenyon Drake performed admirable against an amazing defense, but I would still expect, and this is just an educated guess, but I would still expect Kenyon Drake falls back behind David Johnson. And even if he doesn't, he won't get the golden ticket targets that we want. So I'm just fine going Jameis, Godwin, Evans, or just one with David Johnson as the guy running it back.
Yeah, I mean, Kenyon Drake looked great and all, but I'm with you, man. Like, I don't think they're suddenly just going to say, all right, DJ, take a timeshare role here.
Of course not, no.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, it's just, to me, David Johnson, and I've had a few people kind of laugh at me about this, but I think him at 5.7K, I think he's perfectly viable. And the fact that everybody's afraid to go there, because 2 weeks ago he came out, played 3 snaps, and said, get me the you-know-what out of here, I think makes him a really, really interesting tournament option. All right, let's move on to the Chiefs and the Titans. 48.5-point total. The Chiefs, 3.5-point favorites. I expect that to move up a little bit once Mahomes is confirmed to be the starter, though. I fully expect Mahomes to be starting in this one. And I guess, Daigle, I'm going to start with you, man, because Patrick Mahomes, like, it feels like coming off the injury, he's going to be lower owned than he should be. And that means in tournaments, I have a ton of interest.
That's totally fair. And it's good because, and we'll get to the Titans in a second, but the Titans offense is, Ryan Tannehill has carried his own weight as well, and we'll discuss that more in a bit. But the fact is, if we're getting Patrick Mahomes under ownership and the third highest total, I believe, so far in Week 10, then it's obviously ownership you want to be overweight in. We know Mahomes' presence in general elevates everyone in the offense. Like, yes, Sammy Watkins' floor is still miserable, but Sammy Watkins' ceiling is also wide receiver 1 in the offense. Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman are going to sprinkle in on the other side, but it's still Tyreek Hill carrying his weight and Travis Kelce, who is tied for the league lead in targets among tight ends. He's only scored 2 touchdowns despite leading all of tight ends in red zone targets, and he has yet to catch a touchdown on his position-high 6 end zone targets this season.
Do you know how unfair it is that Austin Hooper keeps crushing and Travis Kelce hasn't done anything?
Well, guess what? You get a discount on Travis Kelce this week, and whether it's cash or tournaments, like, that's the guy I will 100% have everywhere.
Yeah, no, I like Kelce plenty, and of course you mentioned Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins. I like all these guys, and Reeves, we know that the Titans' defense, especially their pass defense, it just has it's not good.
Well, they lost Malcolm Butler for IR, who was a guy that we were torching, but the guy that's replacing him, LaShawn Sims, had to play 2 weeks ago for Adoree Jackson and got absolutely slaughtered.
Was that the Bucks game?
That was the Mike Evans game, right?
Yeah, the Mike Evans took his soul, yeah.
So he's got to play now for Malcolm Butler. So, I mean, it's just kind of trade one guy. It's almost like the Eagles situation where they're just trading just bad guy for bad guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like even if Malcolm Butler was in, we would still be targeting him. So now we're getting a cornerback that is worse than Malcolm Butler.
We're getting a guy that he was playing ahead of. But
that's an amazing spot to be in.
But to the Mahomes point, not only were we getting Mahomes back this week, the knee injury also allowed him to kind of rest that ankle injury he was re-aggravating every week. We're also getting Mahomes back for the first time with almost a complete Chiefs offense, which we have not seen the entire season. They're still not going to have Eric Fisher. It's like the last missing piece. But Duvernay Tardif practiced today, so he'll be back at guard. So I mean, they're gonna have Hill, Watkins, Kelsey, Mahomes, and almost the full offensive line on the field for the whole game, which we haven't had yet all season because Tyreek Hill left week 1 immediately, almost that first game. So I mean, a healthy everyone all around the board except for Eric Fisher, is a good spot for the Chiefs because we haven't had that all year. And then to uncork one of these ceiling games where they put up in the 40s. Now the Titans gonna do that pace wise, allow them to get there? Maybe not, but I mean, at least we know that exists in the cards for if we're gonna get lower ownership on some of these guys coming back. And I'm with you guys on Kelsey for sure this week, especially the way things lay out. And we talked about him just due for regression to take hold and touchdown output. So I'm on that board at that. I have no idea still what to tell you guys to do with the backfield. I understand that Damian Williams has had 21 of 28 touches now since LaShawn McCoy had that fumble. But, man, does that 91-yard touchdown put a lot of deodorant on his game last week.
And he looked bad outside of that 91-yard touchdown.
I mean, it was rough. But, hey, he ran in a straight line really fast. Not faster than Tyreek Hill on that play.
Hey, none of us can do that. None of us can run that fast. So, props to you.
But the Titans are good against the run. They're 11th in rushing points allowed per game, but they're 28th in receiving points allowed per game to backfields. And that's kind of where the Chiefs can scheme up some things for their backs. So, I mean, if he's going to make a dent, I think you're looking at his receiving upside to have a lot more positive impact in this game than his rushing impact.
Yeah, and, when I look at, this backfield, I just don't see a reason to go here. Like, Damian Williams would be the guy you'd go to. But he's 4.9K. It's not like he's sitting there in the threes over on DraftKings, and you're able to, really use him to get some guys in. He's not all that cheap. And, Daigle, I don't want to play any of these guys, and I'm pretty okay with fading the whole lot.
Yeah, I think it's fair. As Reeb said, 21 of the last 28 touches since LaShawn McCoy fumbled and to end that third quarter 2 weeks ago. I don't think you have to, though. With Mahomes back, I think you can just rely on a Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, or Travis Kelce, as we said, stack, and just be just fine with it. Like LaShawn McCoy, I cannot imagine he is getting punished over a full game or a full 2 games just because he's carried the ball the way he's carried the ball his entire career. It doesn't make any sense. And I understand the past month he's lost 2 fumbles, but it just doesn't make any sense when he still looked better than Damian Williams. So last week was the time to bet on Damian Williams coming out of that 1 quarter, handling a majority of the touches. I don't think now is the time to assume we know what's going to happen.
All right, and Reeves earlier talking about this Titans team. I don't want anybody except for Derrick Henry here. It sounded like you had a different take, though, so talk to me about the Titans.
I think it was Daigle, but I mean, Tannehill has, for fantasy at least, he's been good. I mean, he legitimately played good in 2 of the games.
Not last week.
Efficiency stance. But the fantasy points have been there for the last 3 weeks. He's had 19 or more fantasy points in all 3 games. He's kind of been worth the price. The Chiefs have allowed 1 or fewer touchdown passes though in 6 of their 9 games so far. So there is kind of maybe some floor. We know how this Ryan Tannehill story ends. We think we've all been waiting for it. It was 1 week it hit, and we were like, all right. And then he played the Bucs. We're like, well, we've got to go back. And he hit again. And then last week it was kind of ooh, Carolina, I don't know. And then the points still came. And granted, he added 10 rushing points in that game last week. But it's we keep waiting for that other shoe to drop. Maybe it comes this week. The Chiefs' pass defense has been a little better than people think just because they get run on all game. But even last week, Cousins was very inefficient in that game, just had the 3 touchdowns to kind of float his line. Derrick Henry is a guy that I think objectively is a good play, but he's a guy I just typically hate to play. Just no receiving juice. Last week he actually had 12.6 PPR receiving points, which was more than he had his previous 7 games combined. But we always target the Chiefs against running backs. It didn't work out last week, as you kind of hit with Dalvin Cook. And then from the receiving side, it's just too flat. Now, Corey Davis missed practice today with a hip injury. Maybe if he's out, it allows us to go after and attack a guy like A.J. Brown. But the targets since Tannehill's taken over, he's targeted Corey Davis 22 times, A.J. Brown 20, Adam Humphries 18, and Jonnu Smith 16. That's pretty flat to latch onto a quarterback that we're really not that excited about in totality. His types of targets. So, I mean, maybe you got some more you want to chase here, but if Corey Davis is out, we can look maybe to A.J. Brown.
No, not really. It's just the fact that Ryan Tannehill, and I'm not suggesting you play him, by the way. It's just like if there might be a build you have, because I don't want to promote your build for you either. But there might be like a cash build where you need a cheap quarterback, and Ryan Tannehill's 5,100, and the way they keep up in this game, or if they fall behind because Mahomes is back, is via Ryan Tannehill, who ranks as the quarterback 5 over the last 3 weeks, because he also has a little bit of a rush floor. He's averaged just under 5 carries per game. A.J. Brown hit a season high in snaps last week, although it is still a smattering of targets going around. Jonnu Smith, for instance, the last 2 weeks has a 17% target share, and that leads the team. I'm just saying, like, if you need to get that cheap quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, like, you can do worse. That's the new show. You can do worse.
Boy, I am really equipped to host that show. Delaney Walker, if he comes back, like, any interest there?
I highly doubt he will come back, but if he does, I just don't think you can trust a 34, 35-year-old.
If he doesn't come back, I'm willing to play some Jonnu at 3.5.
That's not too bad. And like I said, he leads the team in target share the past 2 weeks. He just still is working just barely ahead of Anthony Ferkser from Harvard. He's running like a route on 56% of Tannehill snaps. It's not too bad for a tight end, and especially for 3,500. But yeah, Delaney Walker needs to officially be ruled out because he just shed his walking boot on Monday.
All right, if you need a cheap quarterback, Reeves, is it Ryan Tannehill or is it Baker Mayfield?
Oh, God, it's definitely Tannehill.
It's a real quarterback.
Well, how amazing is it that
Baker hasn't thrown multiple touchdowns any game this year, and the Bills haven't allowed multiple passing touchdowns any game this year. So,
is it Ryan Tannehill or Mitchell Trubisky?
Ooh, now we're talking. Because, I was going to wait till the end because Daigle had brought Trubisky up back-to-back shows.
Well, guess what? It didn't happen back-to-back shows.
He sucks. So I was going to try to carry the torch this week. But maybe it's a teaser for the folks out there.
That's good. That's good radio talk. Right?
Well, I'm going to talk about Mike Williams again, so that's great. We're just going to do it all over again.
You hate money. All right, Giants and Jets, the Battle of New York, 43.5 point total. The Giants 2.5 point favorite on the road. And you guys – were you a little surprised when you saw this game on the show sheet?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could not believe you wrote the Battle of New York to an email to me.
All right, that was D-Train's email. I'm just going to say I just said this game. He's right, the Battle of New York. And he was I don't know, the D-Train had his coffee today, though. But I find this game a little bit interesting because both these defenses are not good. You get Saquon in a spot where he's going to be very low owned, especially at this price, because everybody, if they're paying up at running back, they're just going to find the extra $1,700 to get to Christian McCaffrey. You get a Jets team where Le'Veon Bell had the MRI, came back negative. I'm still not convinced that he even plays, so maybe it's a Bilal Powell or Ty Montgomery. Robbie Anderson pissed a lot of people off last weekend. It's still a really good spot for him. Reeves, I see you nodding your head, so what do we like here?
Yeah, man, I had some Robbie, and he had one play where he had a walk-in touchdown, and they gave up pressure, and Darnold rushed the throw. It was like literally the only chance he had hitting, but it was like a 60-yard touchdown. The rest was just pain and darkness for that whole game. I also doubled down and bet on the Jets, so that was it was all thrilling.
Oh, no, buddy. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, man. It was a real good time. The first drive, they marched down the field, looked like it was all about to be so gravy, and then it was just a nightmare the rest of the game.
You didn't have a lot of Jamison Crowder teams in there to make you feel better?
No, man, I didn't. I did not, which hurt. But I don't know what to tell you about the Jets right now, man, because it's a disaster. Their head coach is lost. Their quarterback's lost. It's just – and when the way Darnold played last week, against the Miami team that we had been targeting with everybody. Case Keenum had 15 or more points. Mason Rudolph scored points against him. Man, to see him play that way, and not even just not hit, but just play that terribly. I mean, he was a joke in that game. I mean, he threw another horrendous interception that's just laughable. Like, you don't see quarterbacks make those types of decisions, especially on the goal line. They had the bad snap that led to a safety. And then, we've got two teams now that can't protect the quarterback facing each other. Darnold leads the league in pressure, or second in the league in pressure rate, and Daniel Jones is first. Two guys that just are skittish. Daniel Jones handles a lot better than Sam Darnold does, but Daniel Jones can't hang on to the football. Yeah. He fumbles every game. It's just a nightmare. I don't know what's going to happen in the backfield. The backfield situation reminds me exactly of where we were 2 spots against the Giants 2 weeks ago with the Detroit Lions and Kerryon Johnson. We've got a team that can't run and a guy that was a bell cow, but an ineffective bell cow, leaving the lineup for probably some type of timeshare between Bilal Powell and Ty Montgomery. Powell has outsnapped in the last 2 weeks and outtouched him. But this is a team. I think this is a situation that even though these guys are so cheap, this just gives me the PTSD Lions backfield flashbacks against the same Giants team 2 weeks ago, man.
You even have a guy named Ty on both teams. You have Ty Johnson,
It's Ty PTSD.
Yeah, no,
I'm not ready for that.
TYPTSD. That's great. I love it. So, I mean, I'm not saying to play Sam Darnold, but he has to be better here, Daigle, right?
No, he just played the Dolphins that made Mason Rudolph look like a Pro Bowler. Like, that tells you everything you need to do. Mason Rudolph, who should get benched for Devin Hodges. You don't need to hear anything more than that. And trust me, like, I'm the one who comes on and yells about Trubisky. I am all for bad performances.
You do like bad quarterbacks.
I'm all for bad performances and then chasing that because I know it will drive ownership away in great matchups. Maybe Sam Darnold performs great. Maybe. I'm not ruling that out. But nothing has happened just yet with this play calling to this point that would suggest that. He should have been better against Jacksonville. He was not. He should have been much better against Miami. He was not. There's nothing has happened that would lead us to believe to play Darnold in this matchup. So it could come back to haunt me, and maybe I should play him. But I'm telling you, like, you should not believe that.
I mean, even if Sam Darnold has a big game, he's going to have like 0% ownership, so it's not even going to.
Aren't you a 2 to 4 quarterback guy, Crain? Isn't that like? Aren't you part of the mantra? Like, you're a tight quarterback.
Yeah, I'm usually like 2.
How does he make it?
He's not going to make it. All right. We're having a discussion.
Okay, well,
we're just covering bases if he does hit, then, huh?
Yeah. If he hits,
the people don't listen to the show for that. The people don't want cowardly advice on the Pick Six show. You stand your ground. See, you make a choice. You draw a line in the sand.
All right. Well, the $100 Millionaire Maker. We know what all 150 of my teams are going to be. It's going to be.
If you're not going to play him, don't put a foot in the door.
It's going to be Darnold, Robbie Anderson with Chris Herndon sprinkled in there. It'll be a really good time.
And you're going to come on here saying bleeping this and bleeping that.
Yeah, I know. If I did that, I would really need the bleep button at that point.
Le'Veon Bell, though, he got a season low. I think it was 11 touches, 8 carries, something like that, something close to that. And then complained, as we know, to Adam Gase, and then got 25 touches this past week. But as Reeb said, they're just completely uncreative touches. Like, there's nothing to enthuse yourself about these touches. 3.3 yards per carry. And I don't reference yards per carry because it's not a sticky stat. It doesn't matter at all. But the fact he's now played 8 games over half the season and has 3.3 yards per carry behind this offensive line, that should tell you everything. Under 5 yards per target. I mean, it's just absolutely miserable. And that's why if he is ruled out, and I don't expect he is, but if he is ruled out, I just chase the targets at stone minimum and Ty Montgomery, because even if Bilal Powell were to get 15 carries, I don't want any part of the guy getting 15 carries that is not Le'Veon Bell, who's at least talented, right? Behind this offensive line, because they are just that bad.
Didn't we have chalk Bilal Powell week last year?
We absolutely did.
That was a disaster, right?
Every year.
It's every year, right? Like, he gets 1 week, Bilal Powell. I feel like there's just no vowels in his name when you say it. It's really crazy.
Bilal Powell.
God, I totally forgot what I was going to say.
No, but if it comes down to Le'Veon Bell, though, and like David Johnson in your cash lineups, if you're deciding between that, I'll take David Johnson. I'll take David Johnson over Bell right now.
What do you do if they came out and say, all right, Le'Veon Bell is totally healthy. We're going to give him just as much work as he got last week.
We couldn't play him against the Dolphins.
He got the 20.
I know, he was fine.
He was fine for his price.
It was gross, though.
Depending how builds are, though. Depending how your cash builds go. If you tell me one under the gun, I'm going David Johnson.
All right, well, let's talk the Giants side. It sounds like Sterling Shepard. It kind of sounds like he's unlikely to play in this one as well. Evan Ingram, he's got a foot issue right now. We're recording this Wednesday night. That could obviously change between now and Sunday, but just something to keep an eye out on. Ingram's cheap enough at 5'7", where I have some interest, but to me, Reeves, like this Giants team, this starts and stops with Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, Saquon's in an interesting spot. He's another guy that they've struggled to run the football. Not since week 2 has he been over 4 yards per carry. He's capable of giving you a splash play. He kind of had one of those save his game kind of on Monday, even though he didn't score a touchdown. He had that 65-yard catch. But the Jets have been really good against the run all year. They're allowing just 75 yards per game rushing. That's one of the lowest in the league. They're 7th in rushing yards allowed per game, but they're 21st in rushing attempts faced per game. So it's like they're legit pretty decent against the run. They did, shed Leonard Williams, a week ago off the roster. They do give up a ton of receiving points to backs, though, so far. They're 24th in PPR receiving points, the running back. So, Barkley can kind of make his way in there. Talked about, no Evan Ingram opens up some, intermediate targets. The last time Evan Ingram didn't play, Rhett Ellison did play 100% of the snaps to get 7 targets, but we're not doing that. I think that probably the most interesting guys, obviously Golden Tate stays in just like this locked in, supreme target role. I mean, he is 7th among all wide receivers in target share over the past month at 28%. He's been a top 30 scorer in all 4 games. The Jets are bad. We saw Preston Williams and Devontae Parker just, kind of look like they look uncoverable in that game. And, Greg's doing his thing again where they blitz every play. Every play, because I told you I've been in that game, so I paid way too much attention to it that I needed to. They would get to every 3rd and 10, and then Greg sends the house and zero coverage, and a guy gets beat one-on-one, and the Dolphins picked up a first down. We'll probably see something similar to that again. He can't help himself not blitzing against Daniel Jones. You could definitely talk me into getting Daniel Jones in my portfolio more than Sam Darnold, because at least Daniel Jones has given us a QB1 scoring week in the season and a QB2 scoring week in the season. We know that there's a cavernous valley from a ceiling and floor, but at least he's shown us he has the ceiling to get there and tilt the slate. And then I think that the other guy that makes a little bit of sense here now is Darius Slayton. No Sterling Shepard, no Evan Ingram. He only has 15 targets over the past 4 weeks, but he leads the team in air yards. He's got an 18.5 average depth of target. And we saw a couple weeks ago against the secondary we targeted Detroit, he'll get those 50-50 balls and has touchdown potential. So, I mean, he'd be like a guy I'd be willing to mix in, in like a game stack here.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned him because I said that the only guy I had interested in was Saquon, and that I was looking a little bit more into it. As you were talking, I said, I think this could be a decent Darius Slayton spot. And at just 4.2K against the Jets defense that struggle with bombs, I don't hate Slayton here. Daigle, what about you on the Giants?
Yeah, it's a Jets defense that has allowed Gardner Minshew, who just got benched for Nick Foles, who hasn't played since week 1, to throw for 279 and 3 scores. And then last week we saw Ryan Fitzpatrick hit season highs across the board with another 3 scores because the Jets genuinely just can't stop anybody. Without Leonard Williams, their pass rush, which was, they had been pretty good. They had been in the top half of the league, but it fell now to 18th overall in pressure rate. And that's been Daniel Jones' Achilles heel. When he gets under pressure is when he struggles. But the Cowboys rank number 1 in pressure rate created overall, whereas the Jets now rank in the bottom half of the league. We're not too worried about it. So if he even has a little iota of time to hit Darius Slayton for one of those 18-yard average depth of target shots downfield, then that's something that pays off and maybe just even 1 catch. And we've seen that before. We've seen Darius Slayton have 2 scores in 1 game. So that's a cheap guy I was looking at as well.
There we go. That's the stat. Danny Dimes to Darius Slayton. That's the Millionaire Maker winner right there.
And then you sprinkle in your Evans and David Johnson and everyone else around that.
We were only 2 weeks too late.
Yeah. Real quick, this is a question for both of you. Who is in over his head more, Adam Gase or Freddie Kitchens?
Oh, Gase. It's tough to say. I mean, it's definitely Gase for me, though.
You say definitely Gase? Wow, I think it's
Kitchens. Definitely, though. In a world where we don't agree on anything whatsoever, we can't agree on this question right here. Like Pro Football Talk tweeted out, who like is Freddie Kitchens one and done? And among 50,000 votes, 94% said yes, he's done after this year. Like we can't agree on anything, and 94% said he's done after 1 year. It is absolutely insane. But that tells you though, whether you're public, quote unquote sharp, whatever it is, you realize that Freddie Kitchens is way over his head. The play calling is horrendous.
Yeah, I think it's Kitchens, but like I'll
at least give him rope to try to right the ship and go try to work through his first piece of adversity.
He's using that to hang himself, though.
Yeah, listen, he is, and maybe he will continue to do so. But at least, I at least know that Gase isn't coming out of this hole.
That's fair.
All right, let's talk about the Saints, because we've got a situation here where we've been pretty consistently attacking, the Saints offense with Latavius Murray and Michael Thomas. Every single week they've been getting there. Now Alvin Kamara comes back. Latavius Murray, his price is up to a point where it's completely unreasonable. You can't play him at all. But they're 13-point favorites at home against the Falcons. Is this another week where we can just say, I'm just going to play Michael Thomas and feel good about it? Even Alvin Kamara, I think, in tournaments is really interesting because he's not going to have any ownership coming back from injury. Daigle, what do you think about this Saints offense?
Yeah, the reason, I know we're talking DFS here, but the reason you drafted Alvin Kamara top 5 overall, whether it be best ball or season long, isn't because he was going to get an 80% snap rate like he was getting with Teddy Bridgewater in center, because they were forced to use him that much because he's one of their few playmakers without Drew Brees. He was going to always do this on 65, 70% of their snaps and just be as explosive. The thing is, for Alvin Kamara in particular, is that the Falcons rank second to 31st overall. Let's just stick with that. 31st overall in receptions allowed to running backs, because not that they defend that well, but you don't need to throw to your running backs when you can hit your receivers just as easily down the field because they're bad at everything. I shouldn't have to tell you to play Michael Thomas across the board whenever he leads the league in catches despite just going on bye. He comes back still the leader because it's that easy. And with Drew Brees under center, I would imagine that continues. Tre'Quan Smith is going to come out of the bye healthy as well, as is Jared Cook. But we've seen them both play a game with Drew Brees, and though that doesn't project for the rest of the year, the fact is Michael Thomas will still be the number one receiver. Alvin Kamara will still likely get his. And Latavius Murray, I would think, is involved heavily after having 2 top 8 running back performances the past 2 weeks with Kamara not involved and out.
Yeah, and see, that's my biggest problem with Kamara right now is that I agree with you. I think Latavius continues to be involved, and I can't imagine they're going to run Kamara into the ground. And at 8.2K, you kind of need him to get a bunch of looks. So, Reese, what are you doing with Kamara, and are you also just trying to throw Michael Thomas into as many lineups as possible?
Yeah, I mean, Michael Thomas might be team jamming him in this week. I was flirting with it, and I definitely want to get him in. Absolutely. The receivers at the top 2 is, I haven't really had a lot of success paying up for receiver, but I mean, it feels like this is a week I still want to.
It's just one of those slates where we don't have really anywhere else to go at the top of that position. So you can grab, just like last week, a few 4K guys and just stuff in the top receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. I think with Kamara, I think it's tricky, and he also doesn't. He hasn't had a real great track record against the Falcons either. He's got one monster game. He hasn't even a touchdown against them in his career yet, which is pretty odd. So maybe we'll get that damn to break. But for the 5 weeks before he picked up this injury, he was averaging 20.2 touches per game, and Latavius Murray was averaging just 6. I doubt we ever get that back. That was one of the things that before his injury, I was so excited to buy him. And was trying to buy him in as many leagues as possible during that lull where they just weren't getting the scoring opportunities. So it's like once Brees comes back with this type of usage, like this dude could be the RB1 from the point Brees comes back. But I think that the door is open from 1, him picking up the injury, and then 2, how well Latavius Murray played while he was injured, that they're going to kind of go back to some kind of timeshare as they make this end of season push because they're one of the better teams in the league and they're going to want to be as healthy as they can. Going into this, they need Kamara, obviously, schematically they need him. So I bet he is reduced. I would wager on him being reduced out from those 20.2 touches per game that he had the first 5 weeks of the season. But man, that one game he played with Brees this year, they played one full game this season, and he was so good, man. 170 total yards. The ceiling is there for it. So I think he's worth a look in tournaments. I was surprised this game wasn't on there. I mean, I think this game has all kinds of stacking appeal as well. Atlanta road games that featured 61 combined points per game. This is a game that's always like a staple every year. Falcons Saints, we always kind of circle it for upside. And we know that the Falcons can only do one thing, and that's throw the football. So this game is it has potentially a lot of fun, but you chose the Saints side for a unique reason, because after Michael Thomas, we've got a lot of questions everywhere, and it's a game that score points. Where do we go?
We've got a 4.5 touchdown team total. I mean, like, the points are going to come for the Saints team, and it feels like a spot where we should just be able to say Kamara or Michael Thomas, that's it. But you've got question marks about all these guys, I think. You mentioned the receivers coming back, potentially impacting Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and Latavius Murray in the timeshare. Like, I'm really struggling to feel great about any of these spots other than Michael Thomas, which is weird on a team that has the highest implied total on the slate.
Just play Drew Brees.
I'm not playing Drew Brees.
Drew Brees heals all.
I'm not playing Drew Brees. I'm not playing anybody on the Falcons either. I think the Saints kick the crap out of them. All right, let's talk about some running backs. Obviously, we talked about some of the guys, but I guess, Daigle, the first question is, we haven't talked that much about Christian McCaffrey. And I admit it, I have a problem. All right? Hi, my name's Eric. I keep trying to fade Christian McCaffrey.
Don't do that. Why are you doing that to yourself?
I don't know, dude. I'm not going to pay $10K for a guy. I'm not going to pay. And now we're here at 10.5, and I feel like such a dummy. Like, well, I can't pay $10K, and like, because he has a big game, like, or big season, I suppose, the next week. Well, 10.5, that's okay. But I don't know, Daigle. I feel like I just have to go with the herd at this point, because he's having one of the best fantasy seasons ever.
I mean, you were not the only one, right? Like, last week's cash decision came down to either Christian McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook, or both. But the thing is, like, we know no matter what, especially with Kyle Allen still involved in every game, like, Christian McCaffrey scored 31 points against the 49ers among all defenses. Like, and with Jarrell Casey out, Tennessee's arguably their best defender. It's like, okay, you just go Christian McCaffrey, right? But the fact is, like, 10.5, it sounds crazy, but 10.5 is still probably pretty cheap, especially on a slate. And like, think game theory now, even for cash games. I mean, we just talked about Barkley and Kamara. We've all had our concerns about them. Aaron Jones, we saw his target share drop with Devontae Adams back. Latavius Murray, believe it or not, on DraftKings in particular, Latavius Murray is the 5th highest priced running back. And we don't want to pay $7,300 for a guy that we know will be splitting touches at best case scenario. So I think the whole slate just kind of decides for you that Christian McCaffrey's priced at 10.5 on DraftKings. And what is he on FanDuel? Is he 10.5 as well? I think he's 10.5 as well on FanDuel.
But I assume he's a lot.
Yeah, I think he's 10.5 on FanDuel as well. So, of course, his receptions don't add value on FanDuel. But either way, it's just – you just pay for him, man. Don't overthink it.
All right, fine. What about a guy – like Marlon Mack? Because I think I'm looking at projected ownership right now, and it seems like Marlon Mack might be more owned than Christian McCaffrey this week. And we know, look, it's the same story with a guy like Mack, all right? Bell cow running back, 10.5-point favorite at home over a defense that can't stop the run unless it's Le'Veon Bell. Reeves, like, what do we do with Marlon Mack? Because it should be a fine spot. I'm not sure he has the massive upside that you need, though. What do you think about Marlon Mack?
Yeah, I mean, same thing with Derrick Henry. Just never, these types of players just typically never make my player pool unless the price really drives it. When they're priced up, $7K and above, it's tough for me to really latch on to these guys that don't really catch the football. I mean, even in these is a really good spot against the Dolphins. They're allowing 170 rushing yards per game, the most in the league. Their quarterback's banged up. They might play Brian Hoyer. All the signs point to just like they're going to grind Marlon Mack. But like without the receptions and, just because if he doesn't score a touchdown, even if he rushes for 130 yards, like you're still not hitting.
You're not getting there.
And that's what sucks about those types of players. And we talked about Derrick Henry.
7K is a lot, man. Like
if he was, 5K or 5.7 or something, like there's a lot more appeal in that. But, over 7K is tough. The McCaffrey thing is interesting because if it was any other week, I think that, just because Green Bay, man, like, Green Bay is so bad. Like the Chargers just ran for fewer than 40 yards in 4 straight games. The first time in NFL history a team's done that since 1946. They just let the Chargers rush for 157 yards on them. Like they don't care about stopping the run. Like Mike Pettine's been open about not caring about stopping the run. Yeah. Like so, I mean, like McCaffrey's gonna roll. The thing about McCaffrey that's a little bit different is like this cat is due some do some regression. And not from the sense of like, the thing is his usage is so high, but he's scoring like splash plays. He already has 4 touchdown runs of 40 or more yards. Only 4 backs in NFL history had more than that in a season. He's only played 8 games and already has 4. His receptions are down and his target share are down too. He's not getting you like this bucket of other. He's not going 7 for 80 every game receiving. I mean, you look at his past receiving lines: 3 for 20, 4 for 38, 4 for 26. Like if he doesn't hit one of these 40-yard touchdown runs for you, one of these games is coming. I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm playing him this week. I'm not suggesting it's this week either. But like this isn't a situation where he's like doing what Marshall Faulk did, like in 2000, or what Priest Holmes did in 2002. Like he's living off of huge plays right now and just not coming off the field. Like eventually he's going to have one of these games where he doesn't get you a 50-yard touchdown run. And I guess maybe he did against the Bucs and still got you 2 touchdowns. But, he's getting these huge, huge runs. And, like, you just keep asking yourself, like, when is he not going to have one of these?
Yeah, if Zeke or Cook were involved in the slate, again, that would put pressure on us. But you heard Latavius Murray's the 5th highest priced running back at a timeshare. That's all I need to hear.
For cash, though, it makes it, like, none of these guys make sense.
Of course.
Yeah, no, you just play McCaffrey and cash. David Montgomery ended up having, like, if they just keep giving the ball to David Montgomery, they're going to be a better football team. And for whatever reason, they keep refusing to do that early. Daigle, you want David Montgomery this week?
I don't know if I am.
Come on.
But if should I be? Should I be is the question.
Yes.
And probably, I mean, the past 2 weeks, he's handled 48 of their 62 backfield touches. It is clear they are trying to get away from Trubisky without actually benching the guy because they feel bad about his feelings. And
wait, hold on. This Trubisky thing is nuts to me because did you see the story today where Trubisky was like asking them to turn televisions off because he was tired of hearing bad things said about him? Yeah. I swear to you, I read that and I thought, oh, that's a funny Onion article. It was real. It was a real thing that they said. Like it's amazing. Like, I mean, I know we all joke about Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. Like, who is more sensitive right now than Mitch Trubisky? It's nuts. Anyways, I'm off my soapbox now. So.
No, it's fine. But the thing is, like, as we know, this is not the same Bears defense that it was in the past. And the Lions just continue throwing the ball with success. And the Lions also have allowed the most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. So if they're just going to continue throwing the ball with ease, that either one forces the Bears to run the ball because it's their only way, their only path to efficient offense, or they get behind and Montgomery does nothing. So you have to kind of guess for yourself which one that is. So should I have more Montgomery? Sure. Yeah, probably. But for a guy who's still just getting more early down works than targets because they still continue going back to Tariq Cohen for whatever reason, throwing.
I think Tariq Cohen's interesting this week.
Really? Because like balls at the line, Reeves' eyes just got question marks all over him.
Do. Like the thing is, like you said, like dude, they every week, even though it doesn't make sense, what do? They still keep trying to make Tariq Cohen happen. Now they get a Lions team that can't cover running backs out of the backfield, whose linebackers are terrible in defense. If this is a week where Tariq Cohen could break a couple, I'm not saying I'm playing him. I'm not sure if that's a place I can actually go.
Right.
But on this Wednesday, I think he's interested.
Reeves, get in here.
Oh, Reeves, I guarantee.
I wanted to just hear his take. That's all. I have no comment.
I don't want to say anything mean. I don't want him to have to, request that televisions get turned off. So I'm just going to not say anything.
Listen, I had no preparation for Tariq Cohen takes on this podcast.
All right, Reeves. Well, do you have preparation for this Browns situation? Because they come out and they basically said that Nick Chubb might not see as many carries moving forward. Kareem Hunt obviously coming off the suspended list. We've got a 3K, a min price Kareem Hunt, Reeves. I don't know what the hell to do with this right now. Are you playing any? I know that's exactly right, but I mean, in tournaments on a slate where we don't have a lot of value, like I think it makes sense to throw a few darts that way.
I mean, there's some wise men in the world, and no one knows what's going to happen with this usage.
You're one of the wise men, Reed. That's why I'm asking.
I mean, the Bills have starting to get torched up on the ground. I mean, they've allowed 113, 176, 94 yards rushing the past 3 weeks to Washington, the Dolphins, and the Eagles. The Eagles are the one good team that can run the football a little bit out of those guys, but the other two are teams that we typically don't target. So, I mean, maybe there's some upside there. Man, I don't know. I just don't know if the Browns score points, in this game. I mean, so
they're
the Browns,
favored.
I know. This is unreal to me as well. So the Browns have already faced 5 teams in the top 11 and, expected points added through pass defense so far. And in those games, they scored a touchdown on 5 of 59 drives. In the other 3 games, they've scored a touchdown on 12 of 35 drives. So, I mean, they just – when their pass offense gets squashed, they just haven't been able to do anything. And so, I mean, it's really tough. They face another really good pass defense here in a game that's probably going to be just low scoring in generally because that's what the Bills do.
Oh, I hate this game. And this game
tough.
Feels like it's like 17-14 and move on.
I'd probably be more interested in the Devin Singletary side than the Brown side and just understanding that there's a lot of risk involved in there. Devin Singletary is another one of those guys like Ronald Jones. Like we finally got clarity that it's kind of his show moving forward a little bit. The only thing you have to worry
teams are about to be lit, man.
The only thing you got to worry about is Frank Gore did still have 3 carries inside the 5 last year.
Dude, did you see it? Like they just kept
cashing him in.
Here you go, and it was just. I mean, and they did it on a 4th down too. Like it was a 4th and 1 where they just handed it right to Frank Gore, and it was. I mean, he didn't get there. It's unbelievable.
But at least Singletary still gets the targets, whereas Ronald Jones is still an afterthought to Dare, who got that hurry up goal line score at the end of the game.
And the Browns have just been getting shredded, man. I mean, you look at Phillip Lindsay only had 9 carries last week and 92 just chunk runs. Carson got him for 124 2 games ago. Tevin Coleman got him for 97 and a touchdown his first game back. Breida in that same game got him for 1. Like they're giving up long runs. The Phillip Lindsay, game, the Matt Breida game, they're giving up splash plays in the running game. You got big play upside, I think, for Devin Singletary. He's priced in a really weird spot too, to where I don't know if he'll get played a lot, but although he is a little bit of a hot name.
Yeah, but still, anybody in that price range is going to play David Montgomery. It's just $200 more. All right, we are so far behind on the show. So really quick,
we're having fun.
Yeah, I know this is a fun show, man. Like I'm not dropping F-bombs even though I want to. We're talking some Tariq Cohen. We spent 80 minutes on Ryan Tannehill. It's really been a great show. But really quick, Daigle, give me one wide receiver that's really interesting to you this week.
Do you want value or do you want expensive?
Bro, I said one. Pick one. I don't care.
Let's just go.
What am I talking about?
Let's just go Russell Gage. Oh, God. Why did I say that?
What?
Why did I say that?
All right, let's go with the expensive one. Let's forget about the value one.
Chris Godwin over Mike Evans. How about
Okay. Sorry, Russell Gage is not how I want to end this show. Reeves, give me one receiver that you're looking at this week.
Zach Pascal.
God, you guys just like that.
That was the easier route, actually. I should have just took that one.
I'm not playing Pascal, man.
I had Devontae
Calvin
Parker.
Ridley.
Calvin Ridley's better than Russell Gage, yeah. You should just end the show now. Let's just we got to get the hell out of here.
Projected ownership right now have Russell Gage double the ownership of Calvin Ridley.
Told you.
You move the needle that much, Daigle? He just says the name and poof, the ownership just goes up by 5 points. That's amazing.
It makes me feel really good about playing Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I know. You know how many times I have unsuccessfully played Calvin Ridley this year? Every week.
All of them.
I've been playing him every week, and it's just been a bleeping disaster. But
him and Mike Williams every week.
Oh, Daigle, did you want to touch on Mike Williams real quick?
Yeah, even though this is the Keenan Allen week, I hope you know. So sorry to Mike Williams. This is the Pick Mike Williams show, but it's Keenan Allen week.
Dude, I'm so happy every week people play Mike Williams, and the dude just sucks.
100 yards last week. Calm down. He was great last week. Calm down, sir.
100 yards last week.
Sucks. 100 lucky yards. Way to go. All right, Reeves, tell the people where they can find you.
At Sharp Football Analysis, worksheets up every week. We're going to have an announcement tomorrow, so look for some stuff tomorrow to hit the Twitter sphere. All
right, Daigle, where can the people find you?
RotoWorld.com. You can tune in on Sunday at noon Eastern on NBC Sports, Twitch, and YouTube. And RotoWorld.com/win. Win50 is the code if you want 50% off your season-long package for the rest of the year.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Get those deals out there. I know we got some promos going on at RotoGrinders as well, so make sure you check those out. But we got to get out of here. We got the Pro Football Focus show coming up next. I want to thank Daigle. I want to thank Reeves for joining me. I want to thank the D-Train for letting us go a little long today and not yelling at us too much. And I want to thank you guys for listening. It's been fun. Merrick Crain. Catch y'all later. Peace.